Hello everyone, this is Mr. Obvious, bringing you the obvious. And today on thevoxy.com, Joe Biden is in serious trouble. So you probably know by now that Joe Biden has already been Me Too'd. However, it's probably going to be a lot worse for him. So for years, I had to deal with this, especially during Obama's era. Joe Biden memes. There's a bunch of memes of Joe Biden being some adorable fuzzball, some innocent man, some cool guy, and the memes always seemed like they were normie memes. They always felt forced, they always felt artificial, as if they were trying to prop him up for some sort of presidential run. Here's an example. Obama, wave at the people, Joe. Biden, I'm a point at him. Obama, please just wave. Biden. And I'll admit, some of these memes were kind of funny, at least back then, but it was also pointed out that Biden is kind of weird and touchy-feely with a lot of people. And so here we are. Lucy Flores isn't alone. Joe Biden's got a long history of touching women inappropriately. I wonder why the media ignored this for so long. The media gave Biden a pass for years. It won't in 2020. What this really showcases is that the left in this country, the Democrats, eat their own. If you're a straight white male, you absolutely cannot be allowed to exist, and you can't be allowed to run for office. They're eating each other. Their extremism has turned itself on its own head. And this is wonderful news for everyone else. Democrat Lucy Flores was preparing to give one of her final stump speeches in a race for lieutenant governor in Nevada. When she felt two hands on her shoulders, she froze. "Why is the vice president of the United States touching me?" Flores wondered. Flores recounts her experience with Joe Biden in a first-person essay from New York Magazine, describing an incident in 2014 where Biden came up behind her, leaned in, smelled her hair, and kissed her on the back of her head. Yeah, and Biden does this with a lot of people. Here, for example, he's touching this innocent small Asian girl and kissing her on the top of her head like some weirdo. And that's not even the best one. Here in this little clip, you can see actually this girl recoiling against his advances. He's trying to kiss her on the head and she's like, get away from me, you freak. That was probably the worst one. I don't know how old this girl was at the time, but Joe Biden cannot stop touching people. Look at this picture. Look at her face. She does not want him anywhere near her. But he's gotten away with this for years, being touchy-feely, being a complete weirdo. Really strange. Biden was the second most powerful man in the country, and arguably one of the most powerful men in the world. He was there to promote me as the right person for the lieutenant governor job. Instead, he made me feel uneasy, gross, and confused. So yeah, Joe Biden's being Me Too'd. New York Magazine reached out to a Biden spokesperson who declined to comment. After the story ran, a Biden spokesman, Bill Russo, said the vice president and his staff do not recall the incident Flores described. Florence's experience isn't unique. It's no secret in Washington that Biden has touched numerous women inappropriately in public. It's just never treated as a serious issue by the mainstream press. See, isn't that amazing? The hypocrisy and the double standards of the mainstream media and of the Democrats. You think if a Republican did this, if a conservative did this, if one of those dangerous peoples on the internet that's against their ideology did this, they'd say, oh, that's cute. He's very touchy-feely. He's very loving. No, they'd freak out. They'd shout Me Too and all sorts of other obscenities, and they'd cry that, wow, it's terrible, it's wrong. But not because it's one of their own. When it's their own person, they turn a blind eye. Until, of course, they finally decide to cannibalize each other. Biden's been caught on camera embracing a female reporter from behind and gripping her above her waist just below her bust at a swearing-in ceremony for Defense Secretary Ash Carter. Biden put his hands on the shoulders of Stephanie Carter, Carter's wife, and then leaned in and whispered into her ear. He's whispered into many women's ears. He also touched women's faces and necks during other photo ops, asserting his dominance. Once at a swearing-in ceremony for a U.S. senator, he held the upper arm of the senator's preteen daughter, leaned down and whispered into her ear as she became visibly uncomfortable. Then he kissed the side of her forehead, a gesture that made the girl flinch. Yup-a-rooney. That was definitely the one I think that I showed you guys. Yeah. It's all out in the open. News outlets wrote about these incidents, but the stories ran under lighthearted headlines like, Photo of famously friendly Joe Biden goes viral, or here's Joe Biden being Joe Biden with Ash Carter's wife, or Joe Biden, sex symbol, a piece that I edited and now regret. Ah, you hypocritical journalist. You're all the same. You join the trends when it suits you, but then all of a sudden reality comes crashing down, and you're writing this piece to save your own ass. People on the right have been talking about Biden and his creepiness for years. Even a libertarian like myself has pointed out many times how Joe Biden is a weirdo. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but he's gotten away with it for years and no one has said anything because he's on the left. This shows you the true moral superiority that Democrats and the people on the left claim to have. In other words, they have none. Ideological media outlets did write some critical pieces during the Obama era. At The Federalist, Molly Hemingway questioned whether liberals would tolerate the same conduct from a conservative. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out the obvious. At Talking Points Memo, Alina Levinson criticized liberals for giving him a pass, exactly what I've been saying. So I'm not the only one who sees this. This is so obvious to anyone with half a brain. But overall, Biden got a pass from the political media. Do you really need to know anymore to know that the mainstream media is absolute garbage, absolutely biased, and how it all tilts left? Times have changed. Reporters now would look twice at a new politician who is handsy on camera. They'd ask questions about it and likely look into his private conduct. A woman like Flores are taking big risks and speaking out. No, it's not a big risk. They're doing this to further their own political careers and honestly to gain sympathy. That's the whole thing about the Me Too movement, and that's why so many of the claims are false. Because society now rewards victims, even if the story is not true. Look no further than the Smollett case and so many other hoaxes. Biden avoided scrutiny in the past, but if he wants to be the next president, which he won't, he'll face pressure to account for his actions. Joe being Joe. The Onion satirized Biden in 2009 in a viral article that cemented Biden's image as a lovable everyman. Real Biden remembers his working class Scranton roots. Onion Biden washes his Trans Am on the White House lawn. Real Biden is handsy with women. Onion Biden is a womanizer. Hey hot stuff, looking good. Onion Biden told a passing aide. Would you know where I could get a little bucket and sponge action? My mean machine needs to be cleaned. The images bled together over the years into the persona of Uncle Joe. When he dropped a F-bomb on a live mic, it was a classic Joe moment. When he made one of his many gaffes, it got added to numerous lists written in good fun. And when he did kind of creepy things to women at public events, well, that was just Joe being Joe too. All of those frames made appealing pitches just a few years ago. Editors would be happy to get a lovable Uncle Joe strikes again story. The environment is not the same now. Certainly, the media is not nearly as perfect when it comes to covering gender and power. Media is shit. But in the era of Me Too, there is far less appetite for a story that makes light of a candidate behaving badly toward women. Yeah, and it's only one-sided. It's about attacking men, destroying their credibility, and absolute garbage. But here we are, where the left's own memes and their own campaigns are destroying their own people. I'd say that's karmic justice. Biden once said a woman should not have the sole right to say what should happen to her body. Biden, 76, arrived in Washington at the age of 30. And honestly, I sort of agree. When you're pregnant, it's not just your body anymore. You have another life form, a life form that would turn into a living child, into a person eventually. No matter what you say, it is not just you. Even if it's a clump of cells, it's going to be a baby. It's like smashing an egg with a chicken embryo in it and saying, no, I didn't just kill the chick. I didn't kill a chicken. It was just a clump of cells. It really doesn't add up, but that's neither here nor there. Biden, 76, arrived in Washington at the age of 30. His substantial public record includes a mixed history on a women's issue. So here we go. Biden now is going to be receiving criticism from the left because, well, it's his turn on the chopping block. Biden, 76, arrived in Washington at the age of 30. His substantial public record includes a mixed history on women's issues, a legacy that makes his in-person conduct even more worthy of discussion. Lisa Lerer unpacked his history on abortion for the New York Times, reporting that Biden, who is now pro-abortion rights, has not been a solid liberal on the issue his whole career. Of course not. You know, most people on the left are just virtue signaling and pretending to believe this garbage, you know. They don't actually believe it half the time, but they gotta toe the party line. They gotta be fake. That's how it is. And here you see the article for the trash it really is. Democrats need to figure out whether they want a clean house. If Biden runs, he'll occupy a lane in the Democratic primary as a normal candidate, a likable white guy who won't lose it on Twitter or pander to Russia or throw children in cages at the border. Citation needed. First of all, Biden is not a normal person. I think the images we've seen of him touching women and little girls is proof of that. Furthermore, he's constantly committing gaffes, he's constantly doing weird shit, and he's finally being called out on it. If he ran for president, he would be eviscerated. It's over. He'll never run for president, and if he does, he'll be destroyed. Not gonna happen. And the Democrats, as you can see, are certainly not going to vote for a white guy. They are too anti-white. That's the current political climate. And Trump's actually been rough on Russia, and Obama is the one who's been deporting people, who deported even more than Trump actually, and separating children has been a thing. And it's mostly for the children's own safety. There's a huge amount of child trafficking and drug trafficking using children on the border. But liberals and the Democratic media never talk about that because they don't actually care about children. They just like using them to push their political agendas. They're disgusting. As Democrats grapple with the intense desire to beat Trump in 2020, many are anxious that a woman will have a tough time beating him because of sexist attitudes still held by some of the voters. No, people want to vote for someone who's worthy of being a leader, and you just don't present any woman that is actually a good leader or leadership material. Furthermore, as far as I can tell, all the countries that have female leaders seem to be some of the most regressive, backwards, and crumbling places on Earth. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole, but if there is ever a female president, I would rather it be someone who deserves it, rather than someone who only got voted in just because of their gender. Perhaps, the thinking goes, it's better to go with the kind of leader that Americans are used to. Biden, who was in office for 8 years under Obama, could fit the bill. Wrong. But Biden would still have to present a clear contrast to Trump. Well, Biden has not been accused of sexual assault, as Trump has a dozen times. Which proves nothing, because all of those claims, as far as I know, were proven to be fake news and false. Debunked. Again and again. And yet you have Biden on tape touching people inappropriately, many would say. And there are no tapes of Biden on the internet joking about grabbing women by the genitals. Yeah, but there are actual photos of Biden touching women. There are tapes of Biden behaving inappropriately. One man's behavior is far worse, but that doesn't excuse the other. Oh, get off your high horse. Get off your high horse. Trump is pretty tame. For being a rich billionaire, like an incredibly successful man, literally a walking Chad. He's incredibly tame for one. But you want to come up with all this fake news and this bullcrap? All of this misleading, exaggerated garbage? Yeah, okay. You can shill for Biden. Let's see how well his run turns out. And there you have it. The Democrats are in turmoil. They're absolutely eating each other alive. And poor Biden, a straight white male, doesn't stand a chance. But that's merely the obvious. Well, that's all for now, folks. Let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think about Biden. If you would like to support this content, you can do so on Patreon, Subscribestar, or through PayPal. This has been Mr. Obvious, and I'll see you all next time.